Life in the modern world is a constant juggling act. We're bombarded by endless notifications, pressured to succeed, and often pulled in countless directions at once. In this relentless environment, finding clarity and happiness can feel almost impossible. But what if ancient philosophies hold the answers we're searching for? Epicureanism and Stoicism, two influential schools of thought from over 2,000 years ago, offer radically different approaches to living a fulfilled life. And in the face of modern challenges, one of these paths may stand out as particularly suited to our times. Let's set the stage. While Stoicism emphasizes resilience, endurance, and virtue as the keys to happiness, Epicureanism takes a quieter, simpler approach. It teaches that happiness lies in minimizing pain, seeking tranquility, and finding joy in life's simplest pleasures. While both philosophies share noble goals, Epicureanism's emphasis on simplicity, community, and the present moment feels especially relevant today. Take a moment to consider your daily life. How often do you feel truly at peace? For many, the answer is rarely, if ever. The modern world thrives on hustle culture, an endless cycle of achieving, comparing, and striving for more. Social media only amplifies this, creating a constant stream of curated lifestyles that leave us feeling like we're not enough. It's exhausting, and for many, it leads to burnout, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. Epicureanism, with its focus on simplicity and contentment, offers an antidote. At its core, it's about letting go of unnecessary desires and appreciating what we already have. Imagine stepping off the treadmill of ambition for a moment. What if, instead of constantly striving for more, you allowed yourself to savor what you've already achieved? The coffee in your hand, the laughter of a friend, the sunlight streaming through your window. Epicureanism invites us to live in those moments, to recognize that happiness doesn't require wealth, fame, or power, it requires presence. On the other hand, Stoicism often asks us to embrace adversity. It teaches that life's challenges are inevitable and that we should accept them as opportunities for growth. While this can be inspiring, it risks adding to the already heavy load of modern life. Stoicism encourages us to bear burdens with grace, but what if we're carrying too much already? In a world that constantly demands resilience, the Stoic approach might feel like an added weight, rather than a relief. Epicureanism, by contrast, asks us to question those burdens altogether. Are all of them truly necessary? Do we need to meet every expectation, fulfill every obligation, or endure every struggle? Often, the answer is no. By focusing on what genuinely matters and letting go of the rest, we can free ourselves from unnecessary pain. This doesn't mean avoiding responsibility or living selfishly, it means being intentional. It means prioritizing what brings peace, joy, and meaning to our lives. One of the most striking aspects of Epicureanism is its emphasis on relationships. In a world where loneliness has become a public health crisis, Epicurus' teachings on friendship feel more urgent than ever. He believed that true happiness comes from meaningful connections, not material wealth or status. Imagine the joy of a shared meal, the comfort of a trusted friend, or the warmth of a heartfelt conversation. These moments, Epicurus believed, are where life's richest pleasures reside. Stoicism, too, acknowledges the importance of relationships, but it often frames them through the lens of duty and virtue. While this perspective has its merits, it can sometimes feel rigid or transactional. Epicureanism, on the other hand, celebrates relationships as ends in themselves. It reminds us to nurture and cherish the people who bring light to our lives, not out of obligation, but out of love. The beauty of Epicureanism lies in its accessibility. It doesn't ask us to be heroes or martyrs. It doesn't demand superhuman resilience or unshakable virtue. Instead, it invites us to embrace our humanity, to seek happiness in the small, meaningful moments that make life worth living. For those of us navigating the complexities of the modern world, this philosophy offers not only wisdom but also relief. It reminds us that we don't have to do it all, be it all, or have it all to live a good life. The modern world thrives on the idea of constant progress, doing more, achieving more, and becoming more. Yet this relentless pursuit often leads to a life of chronic dissatisfaction. Stoicism, with its emphasis on resilience and duty, might appeal to those who see life as a battlefield requiring endless endurance. But Epicureanism challenges this very notion of ceaseless striving. It dares to ask, What if happiness isn't about doing more, but about needing less? In today's culture, the concept of needing less might sound counterintuitive, even radical. After all, we're surrounded by messages that tell us happiness comes from acquiring the next big thing, a promotion, a larger home, a luxurious vacation. But how often does achieving these things truly bring lasting fulfillment? Epicureanism cuts through this illusion, teaching us that the chase for external rewards often blinds us to the simple joys that are already within reach. Imagine starting your day not by scrolling through your phone or diving into your endless to-do list, but by reflecting on what you're grateful for. This could be as simple as appreciating a comfortable bed, a nourishing breakfast, or a few quiet moments to yourself. Epicurus believed that gratitude was key to happiness, and this practice alone could transform the way we experience daily life. By focusing on what we have instead of what we lack, we can begin to cultivate a mindset of abundance, even in modest circumstances. Contrast this with Stoicism's focus on enduring hardship. While it's admirable to face challenges with strength, this approach can sometimes feel like an acceptance of suffering as an inevitable part of life. For those already burdened by the pressures of work, family, or society, Stoicism's emphasis on perseverance might feel like just another demand to carry. Epicureanism, however, encourages us to ask a different question: why endure unnecessary suffering when you can let it go? This isn't about avoiding difficulty altogether. Epicureanism recognizes that some pain is unavoidable and even necessary for growth. But it challenges us to distinguish between necessary and unnecessary pain. Do we truly need to accept every social obligation, work ourselves to exhaustion, or chase goals that don't align with our values? Epicurus would say no. Instead, he teaches us to simplify our lives, to remove the sources of stress that we can control, and to focus on what genuinely brings us peace. One area where Epicureanism shines in the modern context is its approach to time. In a culture obsessed with productivity, time often feels like a scarce resource, something we're always trying to maximize. Stoicism, with its call to use time wisely in service of duty and virtue, aligns with this ethos. But Epicureanism takes a softer, more liberating approach. It asks us to slow down, to savor the present moment, and to experience time as a gift rather than a resource to be managed. Think about the last time you truly paused to enjoy something: a meal, a conversation, or even a walk outside. How often do these moments slip away unnoticed because we're too busy worrying about what's next? Epicureanism teaches us to reclaim these moments, to be fully present, and to find happiness in the here and now. This perspective isn't just refreshing, it's necessary in a world that constantly pulls us away from the present. Another modern dilemma that Epicureanism addresses is our relationship with fear, particularly the fear of missing out, or FOMO. Social media exacerbates this by presenting an endless stream of curated highlights from other people's lives, leaving many of us feeling inadequate or left behind. Epicurus would see this as a distraction from true happiness. His philosophy teaches us to let go of comparison and focus instead on what genuinely fulfills us. By contrast, Stoicism often frames life's challenges as tests of character. While there's value in this perspective, it can sometimes encourage a stoic acceptance of dissatisfaction rather than an active pursuit of joy. Epicureanism, on the other hand, offers a practical path to happiness by helping us identify and prioritize what truly matters. This brings us to one of Epicurus' most profound insights: the importance of simplicity. In a world that equates success with excess, the idea of finding joy in simplicity might seem countercultural. But think about how often clutter, whether physical, mental, or emotional, adds to our stress. Epicurus reminds us that happiness isn't about adding more, it's about subtracting what doesn't serve us. By simplifying our lives, we create space for the things that truly bring us peace and fulfillment. This simplicity extends to our desires as well. Epicurus taught that natural and necessary desires, such as food, shelter, and companionship, are the foundation of a happy life. When these needs are met, we can find lasting contentment. But when we chase unnecessary desires, like wealth, fame, or social status, we often create more anxiety than satisfaction. In today's world, this teaching feels especially relevant. How much of our stress comes from wanting things we don't truly need? The modern relevance of Epicureanism lies in its practicality. It doesn't ask us to achieve greatness, endure endless hardship, or sacrifice everything for virtue. Instead, it invites us to live simply, intentionally, and with gratitude. It reminds us that happiness isn't something we achieve through external success, it's something we cultivate from within. One of the most striking aspects of Epicureanism is its emphasis on relationships and community. In a world where isolation and loneliness are increasingly common, Epicurus' teachings on friendship feel like a lifeline. He believed that relationships with trusted friends were among the greatest sources of happiness. Friendship, he argued, provides emotional security, mutual support, and the joy of shared experiences. For Epicurus, true wealth wasn't measured by material possessions but by the depth of one's connections. This stands in contrast to Stoicism, which often frames relationships through the lens of duty and moral obligations. While Stoicism certainly values the bonds we share with others, its emphasis on rational detachment can sometimes feel distant or cold. Epicureanism, by comparison, celebrates relationships as central to a happy life. It invites us to nurture friendships not out of a sense of obligation but out of a genuine appreciation for the joy and meaning they bring. Imagine the warmth of gathering with close friends over a simple meal, sharing laughter and meaningful conversation. These moments, Epicurus believed, are where life's richest pleasures reside. In today's digital age, where many of us feel connected yet isolated, this lesson is more important than ever. It reminds us to prioritize quality over quantity in our relationships, to seek out meaningful connections rather than superficial interactions. Epicureanism also encourages us to let go of toxic relationships, those that bring more stress than joy. In a world that often glorifies busyness and obligation, it can feel selfish to step away from relationships that no longer serve us. But Epicurus would argue that this is an essential step toward creating a life of peace and fulfillment. True friendship, he believed, is built on mutual trust, respect, and care, not obligation or expectation. Another aspect of Epicureanism that feels profoundly relevant to modern life is its approach to fear. Epicurus identified fear, whether of death, failure, or judgment, as one of the greatest obstacles to happiness. He believed that many of our fears are irrational and stem from misconceptions about the nature of life. By addressing and dismantling these fears, we can free ourselves to live more fully. Take the fear of death, for example. Epicurus famously wrote, "Death is nothing to us." This wasn't a denial of mortality but a reframing of it. He argued that death is the absence of sensation and, therefore, nothing to fear. When we exist, death does not, and when death exists, we do not. This perspective encourages us to focus on the life we have now rather than worrying about its eventual end. In today's world, this teaching can be a powerful antidote to existential anxiety. So much of modern life is shaped by our fear of the unknown, whether it's the uncertainty of the future, the pressure to leave a legacy, or the inevitability of death itself. Epicurus invites us to let go of these fears and focus instead on living with intention and presence. Compare this to Stoicism, which often frames adversity as a test of character. While this perspective can be empowering, it can also feel burdensome in a world that already demands so much of us. Stoicism asks us to bear life's challenges with resilience, but Epicureanism questions whether all of those challenges are necessary in the first place. Instead of bracing ourselves against the storm, it suggests that we step out of the rain altogether. Epicureanism's focus on intentional living is another key to its modern relevance. It encourages us to reflect on our choices and align them with our values. This means letting go of unnecessary obligations, saying no to things that drain us, and focusing on what truly matters. In a world where busyness is often equated with success, this philosophy reminds us that doing less can often lead to more joy. For example, consider how much of our time is spent on activities that don't bring us happiness, scrolling through social media, attending events out of obligation, or pursuing goals that don't align with our values. Epicureanism challenges us to step back and ask, is this truly adding to my life? By letting go of what doesn't serve us, we create space for what does. This minimalist approach extends beyond time management to every aspect of life. Epicurus taught that happiness isn't about accumulating more but about appreciating what we already have. This idea is particularly relevant in today's consumer-driven culture, where success is often measured by material wealth. Epicureanism invites us to redefine success, not as having more, but as needing less. Think about the last time you experienced true contentment. Was it tied to something material, or was it found in a simple moment, a quiet walk, a heartfelt conversation, or the satisfaction of a task well done? Epicurus believed that these small, meaningful pleasures are the foundation of a happy life. By focusing on these moments, we can cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude and fulfillment. In many ways, Epicureanism feels like a philosophy tailor-made for modern challenges. It doesn't demand that we strive for greatness or endure unnecessary hardship. Instead, it invites us to embrace simplicity, cultivate meaningful relationships, and live with intention. It reminds us that happiness isn't a destination, it's a way of being, rooted in the choices we make each day. The modern world often feels like a whirlwind, pulling us in every direction with its endless demands and distractions. Amid this chaos, Epicureanism offers something that feels almost revolutionary, a way to slow down, strip away the noise, and focus on what truly matters. It's a philosophy that doesn't ask us to endure the storm or prove our resilience. It asks us to step back, reassess, and choose a simpler, more intentional path. At the heart of Epicureanism is a deep respect for balance. This balance isn't about perfection, it's about finding harmony in our everyday lives. It encourages us to cultivate both physical and mental well-being, to create routines that sustain us rather than drain us, and to prioritize rest and reflection as essential parts of a fulfilled life. In a world that glorifies overworking and overcommitting, this perspective feels like a breath of fresh air. Epicurus reminds us that life's most profound pleasures are often the simplest. A quiet moment in nature, the laughter of a loved one, the satisfaction of completing a meaningful task. These are the moments that ground us, that remind us of what it means to be human. Yet, how often do we overlook them in the rush to achieve or acquire more? Epicureanism invites us to pause and truly savor these experiences, to let them be enough. Compare this to Stoicism, which often emphasizes self-discipline and enduring hardship as paths to virtue. While this approach has its merits, it risks framing life as a series of tests to be passed rather than a journey to be enjoyed. For those of us already weighed down by modern stresses, Stoicism's focus on resilience might feel like just another challenge to rise to. Epicureanism, by contrast, offers relief. It doesn't ask us to prove anything. It simply asks us to be present and to make choices that nurture our well-being. One of the most powerful aspects of Epicureanism is its rejection of unnecessary fear. Fear, Epicurus believed, is one of the greatest barriers to happiness. Whether it's fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of missing out, these anxieties often prevent us from living fully. In a world driven by comparison and competition, this message feels particularly urgent. Take the fear of failure, for example. How many opportunities have we avoided because we were afraid of falling short? Epicurus would remind us that failure is often an illusion, a construct of societal expectations rather than an inherent truth. By letting go of this fear, we free ourselves to take risks, explore new paths, and embrace life with greater courage. Similarly, Epicureanism challenges the fear of judgment that keeps so many of us trapped in the opinions of others. Social media amplifies this fear, creating a culture of constant comparison and performance. Epicurus teaches us that happiness isn't found in the approval of others. It's found in living authentically and aligning our actions with our values. By focusing inward rather than outward, we can cultivate a sense of peace that isn't shaken by external opinions. Another key teaching of Epicureanism is its emphasis on gratitude. In a world that often feels defined by scarcity, whether it's a lack of time, resources, or recognition, gratitude shifts our perspective. It reminds us to focus on abundance, to recognize the blessings we already have rather than fixating on what we lack. This practice doesn't just bring joy, it transforms the way we experience life. Imagine waking up each day with a sense of gratitude. Instead of rushing into the day's demands, you take a moment to appreciate the simple things, the comfort of your home, the warmth of the sun, or the kindness of a friend. These moments, Epicurus believed, are the foundation of a happy life. By anchoring ourselves in gratitude, we can cultivate a mindset of abundance that carries us through even the most challenging times. Epicurus' philosophy also has profound implications for how we spend our time. In a culture obsessed with productivity, time often feels like a resource to be optimized rather than savored. Epicureanism challenges this mindset, encouraging us to see time not as something to be controlled but as something to be experienced. It invites us to slow down, to savor the present, and to let go of the relentless push for more. This approach isn't just about relaxation, it's about living intentionally. It's about recognizing that every moment offers a choice, to rush through it or to be fully present. Epicurus believed that by choosing presence, we could unlock a deeper sense of fulfillment. In a world where busyness often feels like a badge of honor, this perspective offers a refreshing alternative. Ultimately, Epicureanism reminds us that happiness isn't about achieving some distant goal, it's about how we live each day. It's about simplifying our desires, nurturing our relationships, and finding joy in life's small pleasures. It's about letting go of unnecessary fears and embracing gratitude for what we have. And it's about living with intention, making choices that align with our values and bring us peace. As we navigate the complexities of modern life, Epicureanism feels not only relevant but essential. It offers a path that is both practical and profound, a way to step out of the chaos and into a life of meaning and balance. While Stoicism has its strengths, its emphasis on endurance can feel heavy in a world that already asks so much of us. Epicureanism, by contrast, offers lightness. It reminds us that we don't have to carry every burden or meet every demand to live well. In the end, the choice between these two philosophies isn't about right or wrong, it's about what resonates most with your needs and values. For those seeking simplicity, connection, and peace, Epicureanism provides a compelling path forward. It teaches us that happiness isn't something to be chased, it's something to be cultivated, one small, intentional moment at a time.